Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The subject of this video is Eid Al Adha. So as you know, it is loosely translated in English as Festival of Sacrifice. And the question is, what is sacrifice about? Well, sacrifice basically means giving up something for something else. And in this case, giving up something you love for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now let's go ahead and recall the story of Ibrahim alayhi salaam. Long way far ago, in modern-day Iraq, there was a young boy who was given tremendous wisdom. His name was Ibrahim alayhi salam. He lived in a time where most people worshipped idols. They used to carve statues out of wood and stone, and they used to sell it in the market, and they would worship these things, thinking that they would bring harm or benefit. Now, Ibrahim alayhi salam was a very curious and very exceptionally bright individual, and he realized that none of these idols could possibly harm or benefit. So when he was just a child, he was searching for who his Lord was. Inside his heart and his soul, he knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was greater than anything he could imagine. He looked at the sun, and he realized that the sun cannot be his Lord because the sun sets. He looked at the moon, he looked at the stars. And right off the bat, we learn a very, very important lesson. If you're raising children, or even yourself for that matter, there has to be a moment in your life where you're searching for Allah, and you have to take that journey very, very, very seriously. Our deepest heart and fitra yearns to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we don't ever want to corrupt that. When we go through life, there's a part of us that innately wants to know who Allah is, and you want to be able to foster that journey, and you want to be able to negate the false gods. I've heard stories of Catholics who were very confused about the concepts of Christianity. I've heard stories of Hindus who were confused about, like if their religion is true or not. And from a human to human perspective, I think we owe it to one another to really encourage each other to search for who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And if you're born to a Muslim family, then of course you know that you have to learn the Asma al-Husna, and that knowledge is extremely precious. Let's move back to the story of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. Ibrahim alayhi salam was fed up with the fact that people were worshipping idols, and he went to the temple and destroyed them all except one, and basically showed these people their foolishness. These people retaliated, and they basically prepared a gigantic fire, and they threw Ibrahim alayhi salam inside there. But Ibrahim alayhi salam put his full trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and said, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. And Ibrahim alayhi salam survived and lived a life of obedience to Allah. And it just shows his deep level of faith and trust and conviction, and he became KHALEELULLAH. Now, what we can learn from this is, first and foremost, never to fear anything except Allah. And the second thing is, we have to really understand that how stupid idol worship is. Now, the thing is, we don't have like statues these days and age, but there are reasons and hopes and things people trust in that replace God in their lives. This could be money, fame, status, social media, games, people's opinions, cultures, all kinds of things. We have to do a deep inquiry into our deepest recesses of our heart and realize, what is it that I think about all the time? What is driving my inner being? Is it a lust for power? Is it competition? Is it power, status? What is it? We have to be able to detect that false god, negate that false god, and single out Allah for worship. And it's an ongoing journey. And when we do that, our souls will be more purified, we'll get closer to Allah, and we'll become good Muslims, inshallah. But it takes some serious soul searching. And I would advise everybody to find a local imam or sheikh that they can trust, and to really undergo the spiritual journey, the suluk, or the spiritual process, and really get feedback or coaching on how to get closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it is extremely crucial. We're talking about infinite years in the hereafter, as a direct consequence of our faith and actions on earth. Later, we see that Ibrahim alayhi salam is begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for an offspring, and he makes dua, Rabbi habli min as-salihin, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him Ishmael at a very, very old age, relatively speaking, compared to people in this age. I think, was it 78 or 90? I'm not sure exactly which age, but getting a son in that old age is a very, very precious gift. And Ibrahim is called to sacrifice his son through a dream several times. Ibrahim loves his son dearly and waited a very, very long time for his son. But Ibrahim knows that as a monotheist, as a Muslim, he has to surrender to Allah's will. The fact that Ibrahim is willing to sacrifice anything for the sake of Allah is the exact attitude that we all have to cultivate. How do we do that? Well, we have to turn to our Maker, always and forever, right? But as you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spares Ishmael and a ram is replaced, and then Ishmael goes on to become a very esteemed prophet, as well as Ishaq and Yaqub, and Ibrahim is renowned as the Imam of all the nations. These are Rasulullah Ibrahim are the most highest level of human being that ever existed, along with the messengers and prophets. They are far superior than any kind of peasant or CEO or athlete of this day and age. And as you can see, that quality that they have inside them is their true, sincere devotion to Allah SWT. And I urge myself and this audience to cultivate that attitude and that trait. And I hope that we all can sacrifice our inner demons, our wishes for the sake of Allah, and we can get to Jannah, inshallah. And again, it is an ongoing journey and process, and we all have different natures, and we have different idols, so to speak, in our hearts. So again, the dua is Allahumma inni a'udhuka min ushrika bika wa ana a'lam bihi wa astaghfiruka lima a'lam bihi. And always turn to your Creator, no matter what, and know that only He has the power to answer your prayers. Assalamu alaikum.